Rather Small Rant! As a kid, Final Fantasy VII was just one of those games that really stuck with me. It helped to reinvigorate my love of video games, sparked my passion for good storytelling, began my harrowing descent into weebdom, and just genuinely really hit me in all the right places. Unlike my uncle. Anyway, when the news dropped that we were actually getting a remake, after years upon years of rumours, well, let's just say I was fairly excited. As more details dropped, however, I noticed that a vocal minority of people seemed to be a little less than impressed with how the game was scheduled to be released, with criticism being thrown at the decision to stagger the game's release into multiple titles, and what that would mean for the pricing of the complete story. Today, we're going to be looking at why, in my humblest of opinions, those concerns are fairly unwarranted. So, at this point, the more observant among you may have noticed that I am indeed not the guy from the Doctor Who videos. Well, everyone who watches our Let's Waffle Over series will hopefully know me already, but for those of you who don't, hello there.
General Kenobi!
I'm Shaq. Welcome to my debut rant of this series. Sam and I run this channel together, and we have a whole mess of content planned for the future, so stick around, subscribe, and all of that bollocks. Well, with that out of the way,
this is nothing but a shameless plug. Take off your pants, let's do it right here.
Let's get back to it, shall we? Announced during the PlayStation conference at 2015's E3, it wasn't until 4 years later, in 2019, that any footage or substantial details from the game began to emerge from Square Enix themselves. One of the most prominent pieces of information given was that the game was to be split into several parts or volumes. Square did not define exactly how many games the story would be split up into, in fact stating that they themselves did not yet know, but revealed that the first game would be centered around the first section of the original game and would be set wholly within the city of Midgar. Okay, well there's the summary out of the way, now let's have a look at some of the rage, shall we? Oh, and let's not forget the people who are refusing to play because Tifa's breasts are too small. Yeah, that's a thing. But seriously, I do understand the concerns. I really do. Except the breast bit, that's crazy. But yeah. We live in an age where companies like EA take every opportunity they can to push more microtransactions and
live services
onto the audience, locking off segments of gameplay behind paywalls, and where pay-to-win mechanics have started to become commonplace. Yeah, it's not the best time in the video game industry to be asking for blind faith from your customers. That said, here's what Square Enix have told us so far. The base game will cost around $60, and will follow the story from the beginning of the game up to escaping Midgar. As mentioned before, this first part will be set entirely within Midgar, but would expand upon the areas of the city that are explorable, and the lore and the story within, adding new segments, characters, and gameplay elements. Square Enix have confirmed that the reason the game will be split into multiple parts is in order to flesh out the full story and to be feasible on a technological level. The first part of the game is over 100 gigabytes on the hard drive of the PS4. But Shaq, I hear you ask, how many parts will there be? Well, dear viewer, I do not know, and seemingly neither does Square Enix yet. However, if I were to take a guess, I would say there'll be at least 4 parts to the release, considering that Part 1 doesn't even cover half of the first disc from the original 3-disc game. My guess would be as follows. Part 1 will have us going from the start of the game up until Cloud and the gang leave Midgar, as is currently confirmed. A lot of people assume Part 2 will take us all the way to the City of the Ancients, which was the end of the first disc of the original game. I disagree, or at least hope not, since this would mean rushing through a lot of the plot, considering that Part 2 is said to be around the same length as Part 1. No, I believe that Part 2 will take us from Calm Village up until possibly the end of Nibelheim with a certain reactor revelation. This leaves Part 3 taking us from there to the end of the pursuit for Sephiroth at the North Crater, and finally Part 4 running from the awakening of the weapons up until the end of the game. This is all speculation, of course, but if I am right, I expect you all to share the shit out of this video when Part 4 is confirmed. So if this is the case, we can estimate each part of the game to be around $60 for a total of $240. Is that a lot of money? Yes! Sure, but if each part of the game is going to be as long and detailed as the developers have stated, then that is the same price you would pay for 4 separate titles of similar length and quality. Additionally, I've seen a few rumours point to the pricing model of the original .hack quadrilogy, where the first game was a full-priced release, and each subsequent sequel was slightly cheaper. This made sense with the .hack games since, well, they didn't really work as standalone games, which seemingly will probably be the case with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, since to understand the plot of the second game, you will have had to play the first game, etc. Now, bear with me, as this theory is a bit of a reach. But CyberConnect 2, who are the developers of the .hack games, were initially developing the Final Fantasy VII Remake for Square Enix, before leaving the project completely in Square's hands. It is possible that Square Enix and CyberConnect 2 had decided to use the .hack pricing model, and that Square still intends to do so after CyberConnect's departure. Regardless, in an industry drowning in the shitty, greedy business practices that I mentioned earlier, the whole base price for a pretty much complete full-length game model of the FF7 Remake is looking like a rather pleasant breath of fresh air so far. But Shaq, I hear you ask yet again, how can you call it a complete game if the story is left open to multiple sequels? Well, dear viewer, by that logic, is Star Wars A New Hope not a complete movie? Is Iron Man? Is Kill Bill Volume 1? Okay, I think you see my point, but with the Final Fantasy VII Remake less than a month away from release, I guess we'll have the answers to some of these questions soon enough, although the total number of games in the series and the price will probably remain a mystery for now. So, what do you guys think about how Square Enix is releasing the Final Fantasy VII Remake? Are you already saving up to buy all of the games, or are you going to wait and see what the quality of the complete first game is like before deciding? After playing the demo and loving it, I'll definitely be picking up the first game close to launch, and will let my experience with that be the deciding factor of whether I'll be investing in the rest of the sequels. I'll probably upload a video with my final thoughts once I've finished the full game, but for now, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for listening. Bye!